Okay, so uh, one thing I need to tell you before going into the chapters, like whenever messages are sent in the group, please check it. Okay, check once or twice. That we have some changes. Okay, so yesterday is for replacement for last week's Thursday class. I replaced yesterday. Okay, that's why it may looks like we have so many classes. Don't worry, next week onwards we don't have that problems. But one thing is, Wednesdays what we do is 4 to 6, right? Normally we take from 4 to 6, but hereafter 3 to 5. Okay, because some students are having some problem in the transports and other things. They can't attend the classes from 5 to 6. That's why what I do is from 3 to 5. Okay, Wednesday you have 3 to 5 we have class. Okay, just I just want to remind you because so many of you haven't read the messages in the WhatsApp group, I believe. So just remember 3 to 5 and 3 to 4 in one ID, and then 4 to 5 with this the same all the Wednesday classes through FAHP 7. Okay, so I send it today. I send you a thing FAHP 8. So use this for next week also. So is it clear? 3 to 4 with FAHP 8. Okay, that is sent today. I send you the meeting ID and passcode. So 722-797-7698. Okay, just write it down. Okay, so 3 to 4 FAHP 8. Okay, so and then 4 to 5 we have this one, the FAHP 7 ID. So only changes are from 4 to 6 we are having from 3 to 5. That's it. The most common type of dislocation, like second to shoulder dislocation, is our patellar dislocation. Okay, so the mainly, can you tell me which direction it will displace? Most common type of dislocation in the patella.
Maybe lateral, miss?
Yes, very good. A lateral dislocation. Most common is a lateral one. Okay, so because comparatively due to muscle imbalance, one reason is the muscles are weak on the medial aspect. We have VMO weakness, the most common complaint we can get.
The following video will demonstrate the techniques outlined in your training packet. Please follow along in your packet and take notes as needed. Please bring your packet and your completed pre-test to go over with a therapist during your transfer training class.
It started by itself. Okay, so clinical presentations for this patellar dislocations are mainly present with knee pain and also large swelling. You get large effusions and tenderness around the medial retinaculum because it's pulled laterally. So other in the medial structures are stretched, right? So the tenderness you can develop on the medial aspect. And always knee is held in flexion. They cannot extend it. So whenever the capsules, everything is taught in knee extension, that is close packed position. So you cannot get fully extended one. So the patient places the knee in flexion, and is also the patella, you can palpate it compared to the normal side. You can see it's displaced more laterally. It looks different from normal. That alignment is that the appearance changed actually. And so knee is held in flexion with lateral displacement of the patella, and then you can hear some kind of popping sensations, like it feels loose, or you feel give away. You cannot, it's buckling. You feel that you cannot stand. And the fear of apprehension is also high. That is, you feel that there is a instability. Okay, that will that doesn't allow you to stand, or you cannot mobilize the limb also. That is the apprehension thing. So before reduction, we don't take x-rays. It's easily we find out that it's dislocated. So after correcting it, we need to check for whether it is settled down properly. Okay, so these are the clinical presentations we have. So knee swelling, tenderness would be there, and the position is always the patient places a knee in flexion. Okay, knee in flexion with the it's look different, like laterally displaced. So management is one more thing is within 120 minutes you need to reduce the dislocation. Otherwise it may cause some recurrency, that is again and again it make it dislocate. And one more thing is it may cause some other associated injuries also. So normally you can give for first time, if it is dislocated, non-operatively you can reduce it. So we have some maneuvers. So for each and every dislocation, we have maneuvers, right? So here also, standing on the lateral side of the limb. So more weightage you need to give on the lateral aspect, and then affected knee is held gently, and then the patella is pushed inwards or medially. Okay, so in this way we can correct it. And one more thing is immediately we can see the results. It is come to the normal position, and the patient also relieved of pain. So these are all very signs, very clues that we reduce it in successful rate. And maybe we can see any other videos are there for correcting the dislocation. Wait a minute.
have this 18-year-old boy who has come to a history of fall while playing football. He had a bad tackle while playing football. And right now, he has come with he has an abnormal swelling over the left knee joint. And we found there's a lateral patellar dislocation, which has been found on clinical and as far as X-ray being concerned. So we'll try to demonstrate here how to reduce the lateral patellar dislocation. So as per the textbook, the reduction strategy is mainly you do a minimum flexion of the knee, and then you basically try to hold on to the patella, and then you try to push into the patella. So at the same time, you extend the left knee joint. So this is something a procedure, but unfortunately, this patient the limb is already in extended position. So we will try to give a small flexion, get to try to hold off the patella fossa, and then we'll try to put into the fossa by holding on the patella, and then we'll try to make the anatomical position by giving a small flexion at the knee joint. That's like around 15 degrees, and then we put a knee brace. We'll just try to do the patellar dislocation reduction. Now, concerned with that, we have given a O2 mask, and we have just given a small sort of sedation and agents which has been used as midazolam, and then we have done a painkiller management in the form of ketorolac in 100 ml, and then we have given ketamine, which actually sort of gives a probably analgesic and the anti-anxiety property also. And then we continue to monitor the vitals, currently 100% saturation with 80 heart rate, and we have a normal strain running over the line. So we have two doctors here assisting myself. We have Dr. Mana here and Dr. Nitin here to assist. And we have a staff nurse and we have an EMT also. So in case of emergencies, we have the crash cart ready also. To take the consent, we are doing the procedure here. Okay, let's try the procedure. So Dr. Mana is giving a small flexion here. Okay, and then I'm just trying to get inserted into the patellar fossa. I'm just trying to push the extend it. Property also, and then person saturation and over the line. Here to assist, and we have a staff nurse and we have here. In case of emergencies, we have the crash cart ready also. After taking the consent,
Can you see it is moved laterally, right?
Okay, let's try the procedure. So Dr. Mana is giving a small flexion here. Okay, and then I'm just trying to get inserted into the patellar fossa. I'm just trying to push the extend it.
It's a painful procedure. That's why it's done under anesthesia. Okay, so we cannot as a first aid we cannot do it because it's a very painful, as well as the muscle spasm is also higher. Immediately after any injury or any kind of impacts, they go for the muscles, everything goes for tightness. Okay, so in that case, if you are mobilize it or if you are moving the patella medially, it produces intolerable pain. So it's generally we prefer the maneuver under anesthesia. So once reduced, after correcting it, we need to give adequate analgesics, painkillers, and we need to take X-ray also to see it's accurately reduced, and then we can go for immobilization in a POP. Okay, the plaster cast should be applied because why means maybe you need to prevent the recurrence. Okay, so and sometimes the retinaculum, everything may be injured. So in that case, the immobilization is important. And after that, after a follow-up, we can do rehabilitation. The main importance is the quadriceps strengthening and the VMO muscle is very important. That strengthening of VMO is very important. And there are so many contradictions are there. Like some people say we can mobilize after patellar fracture, but during other than that, other than the exercise or weight bearing, they need to be in mobilizers, knee immobilizers. But some people say we need to immobilize them for 3 to 6 weeks. So safer side, reduce the timing of immobilization. So it's depends on the surgeon's preference. Some people may go for yearly mobilizations, or some may wait for still 6 weeks. Okay, so here it's a short period of immobilization followed by with or without patellar brace. So depending on the stability will decide whether we use braces or not. And one more thing is, that's why I told you the recurrence is once it's dislocated means we have higher chance, that is 15 to 44% after conservative treatment. So that is the other problem. And you need to check the X-ray also to find out, along with the dislocation, is there any fracture. And the management is, so knee immobilizers during sleep time, and during if you're not doing exercises, any exercises, you have to wear immobilizers. And then start the partial weight bearing and the painkillers, analgesics, isometrics. And I told you, if it is safe, like after 6 weeks, you can go for a vigorous quadriceps strengthening. It's very important. You need to concentrate on quadriceps. Okay, sometimes the avulsion fracture. What does that mean? So the quadriceps tendon pulled out with some chips of patella. Sometimes it may also happen. So because of forceful contraction of quadriceps while flexed knee, okay, falling on a flexed knee, or sometimes a sudden sudden forceful contraction of quadriceps. So here also you're having a pulled tendons, right? So it produces significant pain, swelling, and you cannot extend also because of that severe pain in completing it. So inability to extend the fully flexed knee, okay, that is there. And you can see the patella is righted more superiorly. Okay, so it is not in the, immediately we can see that this is very how to say, the surface, the more prominent bone. So high riding patella is immediately you feel abnormal. So high riding patella on lateral X-ray, or when you palpate also, you can easily see that. And for this thing, you need to do the surgical repair. Okay, you need to stitch it. The tendon should be, tendon along with the piece of segment of patella should be fixed with the remaining patella. Now we have tibial shaft fractures. Okay. So this shaft fractures are mostly they involve soft tissue injuries. Excessive, along with the tibial shaft fractures, you can have excessive soft tissue injuries. In this level, that is in this tibial shaft fractures, you can have this type of things. And also children's, most commonly children's get affected compared to other groups. Okay, so once again. Okay, once again, if you want, we will have 5 minutes break. Okay, have 5 minutes break. We'll join it. So we'll have this the tibial shaft fracture. It's not on epiphysis, that is articular. It doesn't involve articular region, right? So it doesn't have a metaphyseal region also. It's purely the shaft of the fracture. So the shaft of the tibia, right? So here, what is the advantage means we don't have joint stiffness. That problem is not high enough. But one thing is, this is of mostly of that complex fractures, comminuted fracture. Okay, so that is a problem. And limb shortening, the chance for developing a limb shortening is high, and angulation and displacements also higher. So most probably we can go for ORIF. Okay, so there are bimodal in distribution. One is young age group, other one is the old age people. This tibial fracture is common in both ends. So high in a young age group only, you have this kind of high energy trauma from maybe direct impact, or but mostly for a young age group, it is an open type fracture, that is compound or comminuted fractures. So surgery is the best option. And the next thing is the low energy in the indirect traumas, maybe twisting injuries on a planted foot. Okay, so you may have after placing a foot, sometimes you turn or twist yourself or fall from a low height, can cause elderly people get this spiral or oblique fracture. Okay, this is the two types commonly we have. Okay, so that's why that's mostly it's a torsional force, bending force, or direct blow. Maybe road traffic accident hit on the tibial shaft. And so closed one and minimally displaced. If it is it's less than 5 mm, I think. Once again. Okay, so the displacements are minimal, or the angulation is also within 5 to 10 degrees, or everything is within the normal reduction. Means you can go for immobilization, reduction with immobilization. If fracture is displaced means we have we need to take consultation with ortho, as well as further reduction is needed. And the important thing we need to check for is the compartment syndrome. Like in upper limb, here also this type of fractures can easily develop into compartment syndrome. That is the pressure increase. The pressure increase in that chambers of your leg region can cause increased swelling, increased pressure, and then there is a greater chance for gets the arteries, any bursting of arteries or veins. There are so many complications in the compartment syndrome. So always be aware of this. In the first 2 weeks, we have to be very careful with this compartment syndrome. So swelling, excessive pain, that is unmatchable. It's too severe, or sometimes after taking analgesics also, it won't respond. In that way, you have to be very careful. Discolorations, bluish discoloration, or sometimes paleness. These are all signs that immediately we need to dissect. We need to relieve the pressure. So open fracture. We need to immobilize the fracture and cover the wound. Wound dressing is very important to prevent infection, because we need to be covered. We need to immobilize it, right? So the how much we are protecting the wound, right? The proper hygiene and antibiotics, everything should be very important for protecting the wound from infections. Okay, and then IV antibiotics, and we need to clean it, that all the excessive tissues, unwanted dead materials, everything should be deep fried, that is removed and cleaned properly for wound management. It's very important, because parallelly, if it's both are going in hand, means you get the successful results, or else maybe your wound is getting infected, means you cannot proceed with the proper ambulation or proper improvement in your musculoskeletal aspect. Or if musculoskeletal issues are there, means your wound is also not going to be progressed, not going to be treated properly. So we need to balance these things. So associated injuries, that's what I told you, the compartment syndrome, the embolism. So the fat embolism, we already discussed it, right? That the bone marrows has excessive fat molecules, so it gets discharged into your bloodstream, and that may cause it's a type of clot, right? So it's not a blood clot, it's a fat molecules that may also block your major vessels. And soft tissue injuries, these are all associated injuries. You need to go in hand with this management part. And we have one more classification, the classification of tibial shaft fracture. So here you can see that that actually the shaft he can heal in a better way, but along with that you have that soft tissue problems, right? That is a major headache for us. So you need to grade it. So the soft tissues can be graded according to different stages. So grade 0 is negligible soft tissue injury. Mostly the injury would be there, but it is very very small, means you can once again. So grade 0 is actually negligible soft tissue injury. Grade 1 is superficial contusion or some kind of scratches. And grade 2, the grade 2 is deep contusion from direct trauma, and grade 3 is extensive crush injury. Okay, and along with that you can expect a muscle injury, also severe muscle injury is grade 3. So accordingly, you can decide whether we can go for open reduction and internal fixation, or you can go for external fixators. Okay, for grade 3, surely you have to go for EF, external fixations. So for all the soft tissue injuries, you need to check this soft tissue grades. Okay, so management mostly for tibial shaft fractures, intramedullary nailing, most common one. And mostly 80 to 90% of cases can be treated with intramedullary nailing. And in some cases, you need to have this one, the plates fixation. And soft tissue injuries, you can go for external fixation and cast braces. Maybe undisplaced stable fractures, means you can go for cast and bracing. So now we are coming to the physiotherapy rehabilitation for the tibial shaft fractures. So the first week, first day 1 to the first week of the immobilization, the precautions, the first precaution you need to do is rotatory motions with the foot. Okay, don't ever do this kind of rotations, that is adduction and abduction of your foot, or inversion and eversion. So nothing. So avoid rotatory motion with your foot. And you can start ankle and knee if it is not in the cast, right? So you can go for active range of motion to ankle and knee, because here the joint involvement is not there, so you can go freely. And isometric exercises also you can give for calf, dorsiflexors and quadriceps. And the functional activities here, non-weight bearing, non-weight bearing and transverse also, the pivot transverse, and the ambulation with crutches, non-weight bearing ambulation with crutches for unstable fractures, that is mostly that comminuted fractures and all, non-weight bearing, strictly no to that. And if it is a stable fracture, undisplaced or less angulation, or that category is least rotation, in that category we can weight bear, you can start the weight bearing as tolerated. Okay, so the second week also, precautions, avoid the same. When the foot is planted, avoid rotatory motions. And if it is not in the cast, you can start doing range of motion, active range of motion to ankle and knee. So you are not going to do passive movements. Okay, and the same thing, the strength training same, and functional activities also the same. So one more thing is, while functional activities, non-weight bearing for unstable fractures, and you can start go for toe touch. Okay, non-weight bearing to minimal weight bearing, very minimal weight bearing for unstable. But like in the previous week itself, we are weight bear as tolerated, right? And then week 4 to 6 also, the precautions, avoid rotatory motions. And if it is not in a cast, you can use ankle and knee active range of motion, and isometric and isotonic exercises. You can allow the movement also, not only tension, the isometric contraction, you can go for eccentric and concentric contraction. And functional activities for unstable fractures, here also non-weight bearing. And here the same non-weight bearing to toe touch for unstable fracture patterns, and weight bearing as tolerated for stable fracture patterns. So unstable fractures, make sure that it's not tender. On palpation, you don't feel tenderness, and then you can go for toe touch weight bearing. Otherwise, continue it with non-weight bearing for unstable fractures. Okay, this is the protocol for 4th to 6th week. And then we have 8th to 12th week. Here in this thing, you can start active assistive and passive range of motion to the knee. And once again, Okay, knee and ankle also. You can start doing all range of motion in all planes. And strength also, start PRE to the dorsiflexors, quadriceps and plantar flexors, and transverse and ambulation, weight bearing, full weight bearing transverse at the end of 12th week, and weight bearing as tolerated. Okay, that's it for tibial shaft fracture. Okay, so I think we will end it here. Okay, tomorrow we will see the remaining fractures. Okay, so I will upload it this thing, and then today's 3 to 4 class also I will upload it in YouTube. YouTube, please check it. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you. Let's wind up. Bye.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, is there any doubts?
So far, no doubts, Miss.
No, Miss.
Okay. Okay. Thank you all. Bye.